All right, guys, welcome back to the Pocket Mads channel. It's Maddie here, and welcome back to Meta Monday, the weekly series where we analyze the Pokemon Pocket metagame and keep you guys up to date on everything going on in the competitive world of Pokemon Pocket. This past weekend was PMPT number 27. Over 500 players came out to compete, which was absolutely incredible. Shout out to all of the judges, the admins, and of course the casters, you know, making everything happen every week. PMPT has been going on for quite some time, but it's still incredible how many people come out and compete. Even after, you know, we're a couple weeks into this new season. Pokemon Champions just released. A lot of stuff going on, but to have over 500 people compete is absolutely incredible. So big shout out to you guys. Thanks for tuning into the live streams and playing. I really do appreciate it. And I'm excited to cover the results. Some news, this upcoming weekend is going to be PMPT number 28. I got my dates wrong last week because we will be doing a Season 2 Invitational Tournament. It'll be the last weekend before the next set releases. But as it turns out, we have another weekend until the set releases, which is releasing on like a Monday or a Tuesday. So this weekend is PMPT number 28, and this is the last PMPT tournament of the season. So this weekend, a normal tournament. You can go ahead and go register. Link will be down in the description below. And then on the following weekend, we will be doing our invitational tournament. So you'll have to kind of keep an ear out for you know, the news and information that will release regarding the invitational tournament. But like I said, Champions had just released, and I didn't know how many people would be moving from Pocket to Champions. There's certainly a lot of content creators, including myself, that have been making videos on Pokemon Champions because it's really fun, and I think that it's a really, really fun game. I myself plan to make videos for Pocket and Champions kind of at the same time. If you haven't, you know, checked out the Champion Mads channel yet, definitely go check it out and subscribe. It would be great for me. I would really appreciate that if you did that. But anyway, long intro. It's a long intro today. It's Meta Monday. We are going to get right into the results of PMPT number 27. By the way, Saturday, April 18th, PMPT number 28. Okay, here we go. Here are the final standings of the tournament this weekend. And yeah, there we go. So, interestingly enough, we got the same two decks in grand finals. Once again, Hydreigon and the Darkrai Sleep Scam Altaria deck. What are the odds of the same two decks making grand finals? You guys might think, well, these are two strong decks. They're popular decks. It's not that crazy to see two decks go back-to-back grand finals. But to be honest with you, the odds are extremely low. I don't really know how this happened, especially when you take a look at the standings. Like, there were no other Altaria Darkrai decks in top 16, and there was only one other Hydreigon deck, but that's kind of what's been going on. There's like a blood feud happening between Darkrai Altaria and Hydreigon and Mega Absol. I don't know what's going on there, but they keep hitting in grand finals. However, this week, it was Kaizo from Germany playing Altaria and Darkrai, getting the win. So got its revenge. Altaria got its revenge last weekend. Lost to Hydreigon in the grand finals, now getting the win. Kind of crazy. It's just a weird scenario. You never know what's going to happen, and that's why I love Pokemon Pocket. That's why I love the PMPT tournament series, and that's why I love all you guys that come out and compete. Amir here from, where is this? Malaysia. 11-3, great record here. Second place, made it to grand finals playing Hydreigon. Could not get the win. No back-to-back victories for Hydreigon this week. That's an up for me. But we have Lucky Poke in third place. I have a cold, by the way, if I sound weird. Third place, Lucky Poke. Is this Great Britain? Yeah. Playing Venusaur. So Venusaur finds its way into top 4. Venusaur's been kind of creeping around. It's a strong deck. I don't think anybody's going to stand here and tell me that Venusaur isn't a strong Pokemon. This thing is an absolute monster. Venusaur has some issues, as we all know, right? It's not the fastest deck in the world. If, you know, you don't get that turn 2 Ivysaur, you're kind of a sitting duck. But even if you do get the turn 2 Ivysaur, you can get kind of blown up on turn 2. However, Venusaur kind of finds its way. 11-2 record. I don't know how many people play Venusaur this weekend, but it performed well here in third place. So shout out to Lucky Poke. Fourth place, we have Legendary. I think is how you say that name. Fourth place, 10-3. He was playing Absol and Darkrai. Now, I believe this is going to be a sleep deck as well, but we'll take a look at that in a little bit. After we talk about the standings, we'll take a look at the decks and then the metagame tab after to kind of get an understanding of what's going on. I will say this is like, I think, the third tournament of the season, and typically week 3 is where things kind of go off the rails a little bit. The meta like settles, and then the counter meta settles, and then things sort of come full circle, and who knows what's really going to happen in these third weeks of the season. They're always my favorite. The third weeks of the seasons are my favorite. Also, ranked battles should be out right now. and you're going to want to pay attention to the results while you grind ranked. But if we look down here, 5th and 6th place, Mega Manectric. So Mega Manectric's still one of the most successful, most strong Pokemon in the entire game. It was Turbo Manectric with Zero Aura in 5th place, free tendies. And then we had, of course, a Jolteon Manectric deck in 6th place. I haven't been that high on Jolteon and Manectric, but, you know, shout out to MQD and J55 from the United States for making top 8 with Jolteon Manectric. Another Hydreigon, 7th place, TB herself from France, I believe. Yes, sir. Another Hydreigon, but that's the only other Hydreigon in top 16. So you would really think like more Altaria, more Hydreigon. They've met in back-to-back grand finals, but only, you know, 3 total of those decks in top 16, which is kind of crazy. But I've said it for the last month. So many strong cards in Pokemon Pocket. It really is incredible how many, how strong Pokemon are in the game. Like anything can really pop off. And Flo from Germany there, also playing Turbo Manectric in top 8. So double top 8 appearances for Manectric is pretty cool. IB Fasting from the United States, playing Dark Greninja, and that is different from Legendary's deck because it's not playing, his deck's not playing Greninja, but this one is. There's like 2 versions of that deck, but this one plays Greninja. 9th place here, just outside top 16. We had Alia playing Chandelure. So Chandelure finds its way into the standings this weekend, and right below it, we have Phantom Knight playing Guzzlord Deck. What a throwback. Excuse me. Oh man, I've been so sick the last like week. Guzzlord Deck popping off. We even see Fury 64140, 13th place down here from France, playing Guzzlord and Indeedee. So Guzzlord double appearances in top 16, not on my bingo card this week, but definitely pretty funny. 2 very, very different Guzzlord decks, but you know, we can't sleep on how incredible of a card Guzzlord is. And Naganadel, one of the more effective fast-paced Pokemon that we've ever had. I really liked, you know, the Dark Ultra Beast package with the Naganadel. A really good deck. We got poison stuff. The poison's going to be really nice. You know, we'll take a look at that deck. Maybe Nihilego, Poison Bar are going to be good for the sleep decks, I would imagine. We also have an Altaria deck, and this is Froggy X Wawan making his like 18th top 16 appearance at PNP. I feel like he's always in the standings, so shout out to Wawan. And like I said, Fury 64140 from France, playing Guzzlord Indeedee, finding its way into top 16. A couple of Suicunes down here. Lindo GS0 Easy from Denmark in the United States. 14th, 15th place, playing Suicune. And then Danny Maton from Spain does find a way in top 16 with that Greninja Decidueye deck that we talked about on Friday. It was our weekly wild card on Friday. Kind of entered into the metagame in a weird spot. Like one of like the top 5 most played decks last week. Ended up kind of, you know, finding a spot there in top 16, which is pretty cool. So a lot of diversity. If we're being honest, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We had 13 different decks in top 16, I think, is what's going on here. So I don't know. Again, week 3 is crazy. It's always the most crazy thing in Pokemon Pocket. If we go down, most of the stuff's pretty normal. There was a Manectric Luxray deck, Gerard Mentor here from France, 29th place. So that's pretty cool. We had a Houndstone deck, Edix here from Argentina, 7 and 3, 26th place. Playing Houndstone is pretty cool. And then an Altaria Greninja, and that's Froggy X Fab, 25th place. Shout out to Fab. And yeah, a little Bayonet here. Okay, so this is Wind Up Bird Maida. One of my favorite players in the entire game from Japan. I think he's our top. Oh, no, right here. We can't exclude, who is this? Now, a bunch of 0. I don't know how to say this name. This is our highest ranking player from Japan. Went 8-1-1. But yeah, Maida is one of my favorite players of all time. He always plays some incredible decks, and I think he's played Bayonet before. Takahiro, our highest placing Steelix, all the way at 39th place. So Steelix, and there was another one here at 45th place. Not a ton of Steelix in the standings. Okay, and then Umbra Alicorna from Italy. You guys need some more simple usernames. It's so hard for me to say these names. It's crazy, man. I need like a coach. I need a dialect coach to say some of these names. I don't understand. We did have a Scizor here, 46th place, so not a lot of Steel in the standings. So Steel type decks didn't do too well, but that's the final standings. Let's talk about these deck lists. Let's get in here, see if anything really surprises us. This is going to be the #1 deck here, Kaizo's Sleep Altaria deck. Probably nothing too crazy. I do see a protective Poncho in here, and I like to see that Poncho. You know, Poncho's a good card. I mean, it's gonna help you. That's the truth. Yeah, I mean, I guess Poncho never stops Greninja, but it is going to stop Qianpao. So maybe this deck, maybe this player just didn't feel that confidently into Suicune. So maybe that Poncho was pretty relevant, maybe protecting, you know, probably the Darkrai on the bench or whatnot, or something like that, right into the Qianpao matchup. I kind of want to take a look at his matchups here. He did hit 1, 2 Suicunes. 3 actually, and was undefeated in this weekend. The only 2 losses he got were to Dark Greninja, which, yeah, that's crazy, man. What a run. As we all know, Sleep Altaria is one of the more, RNG decks, lots of coin flips going around, but in terms of like getting to where it wants to get to and the overall strategy, it's incredibly consistent. This is one of the best decks in the game. It never has like an incredible win rate because, like you can counter Sleep. Not as many people countering Sleep so heavily these days, but it's a coin flip deck, so it's just going to fall a little bit closer to 50-50. But, I mean, back-to-back grand finals for Sleep Altaria, this time getting the first place finish. Just an incredible deck. I mean, the strategy between Igglybuff and Darkrai really is one of the crazier things we've ever had in Pokemon Pocket. And even though there is counterplay to it, I don't think that this deck is at the forefront of the metagame to the extent that, it's going to get counterplayed like to oblivion. The Sleep stuff is strong. It's just not like the number one like thing driving the meta, but it's up there, We have the Lissia in the deck, which I like. I think you got to play Lissia when you're playing double Igglybuff, Swablu, double Copycat, Sabrina Cyrus, double Research, double Pokeball. So kind of a maximum consistency deck, but I like that in a deck like this. I think Altaria always, one of the biggest benefits of Altaria is that it really is like the most consistent Mega Pokemon. So really like the deck. Double X Speed, kind of throwing me off a little bit. Excuse me. What is the double X Speed doing? What are we doing with double X Speed? I suppose, I don't know. It's kind of weird because like Darkrai has a retreat cost of 2. So I guess you could retreat the Swablu. I guess you don't really want Swablu in the active, right? So X Speed, we kind of get out the Swablu. I guess you could, if you did lead Darkrai, you could just attach to it. And then X Speed, if you're going second, right? If you could attach to it on your first turn and then just go and kind of go into Igglybuff. You are -1 energy if you do that. But honestly, being behind on energy is really not that big of a deal. So the X Speed's probably, it's probably a pretty good inclusion to the deck. Probably adds a lot of consistency to those early turns. So I like it. Definitely a little bit different from some of the Sleep Altaria decks that we've seen in the past. But I like that deck. I like Kaizo. I like what he's cooking there. Shout out to him. First place finish. Shout out to him, man. Amir. Hydreigon, our top placing Hydreigon deck. Yeah, nothing shocking here, although we are playing Rocky Helmets and no Nihilego, so I guess that is kind of shocking. I've always been kind of curious, like the Poison Barb Nihilego stuff is good, but I mean, at what point, do we kind of just kind of let it go? I think it's good because if you have Nihilego in Poison Barb, it's 30 damage instead of 20, and that is relevant for the Sleep decks. Maybe if he had Poison Barb Nihilego, he might have won that matchup in grand finals. It's definitely a big deal. Having that 30 damage recoil instead of 20. But maybe the Leap over Absol was worth playing too. It's hard to tell. It's hard to know. But Leap over Absol, 1 Cyrus, no Sabrina in the deck, still double Lucky Ice Pop, double Copycat in the Hiking Trail. I know early in the season, a lot of people asked about Hiking Trail. I just think it's really worth playing in these like rare candy stage 2 decks with Copycat. My explanation is that decks like Hydreigon and even these Greninja decks, they either get stuck with a ton of cards in their hand that can't be played, like stage 2 Pokemon like Rare Candy, because they have like it's a combo deck. So you have to have all of the cards to play them. But sometimes you don't have them all, and your hand kind of piles up with things that you don't need. And Lucky Ice Pop also is one of those cards. So sometimes, and this is the reason why Hydreigon has gotten so much better because of Copycat, you're able to kind of just refresh that giant hand into cards that you might need. But on the flip side, if you do draw the cards in the right order, you're left with oftentimes not many cards in your hand. So Hiking Trail is going to pretty consistently make a deck that when it's rolling is going to be rolling even better. And I think that's just, it's a good card, honestly, in Hydreigon. Hiking Trail, one of the more underrated cards in the entire game. But yeah, that's really the only surprise to me. Rocky Helmet and Absol instead of Poison Barb Nihilego. Maybe I feel like that could have made a difference in grand finals. Like I would imagine, the Poison Barb Nihilego, because that's what won last week, probably would have had a better matchup, right, into Igglybuff specifically. But shout out to Amir. Shout out to Amir. It's Hydreigon, man. It's such a strong deck. It really is. Lucky Poke from Great Britain. This is Venusaur, third place Venusaur deck here. Playing double Ericas and a Lily, double Extract. We've got a Lucky Ice Pop, a red card in here, and then the heavy helmets. Fundamentally, this deck list is really, really good if you are able to go first, because you can just bench Bulbasaur, and then turn 2, you can just sort of Extract into Ivysaur or just evolve into it. This is like one of those decks where Extract is a really, really big deal. Most of the time, Venusaur doesn't need a second Venusaur. Like, you just kind of set up one, and then you're hoping that it's enough to just kind of win the game, but by just attacking over and over again and healing. 240 HP. You know, we got the Lily, the Ericas, the Ice Pops, so a ton of healing. But Heavy Helmet on that Ivysaur, because it has a retreat cost of 3, means your opponent has to hit for 130 on that second turn, or else they're not going to be able to KO Ivysaur. As we know, Hydreigon can do that, which is why I think Venusaur is a little bit sketchy, because there is a lot of, you know, there's a lot of Hydreigon running around. And yes, you could play Leaf Cape, but that's also going to just put you at 130, so it doesn't really matter. Venusaur always going to be good into Suicune, right? Suicune Shampoo especially, because just a solo Venusaur will just absolutely dominate any Suicune deck. But it's also going to be pretty good into things like Altaria, because 240 with Heavy Helmet, Ericas, and Lily, like you're going to be able to live multiple hits, so you can kind of just stay in the active. I forgot to mention we also have a PCL in the deck, so we have a lot of healing, but that's the core concept here. This deck doesn't really need that much. The Cyrus is a win condition. I think Venusaur, very straightforward deck. These grass type decks really have been the same for a long time. It's really funny. Like the Venusaur stuff was the exact same, or not Venusaur, sorry, Decidueye. Like Decidueye played the same way. It was the same type of deck. You just wanted to go second, get your evolutions out. That was a rare candy deck, but Venusaur is just about that. It's just a solo grass Pokemon in the active carrying the game. Kind of the only way these grass decks have been played. It's just like the grass archetype now, which is always kind of funny. But yeah, nothing else to really say about this. I imagine, you know, probably hit and beat a lot of Suicunes. Beat 1, 2, 3 Suicunes, so 3-0 into Suicune. Did lose to a Bayonet Altaria deck, which it probably was a hard matchup there to match into, and then ended up losing to Sleep Scam. I wonder if that's just purely off of RNG. He has 1 PCL in the deck, but maybe he just wasn't able to draw it. So, you know, that can happen. But those were his only losses. Like, I mean, this deck is going to absolutely mow through Manectric. This deck is going to beat Lightning basically every time. The Oricorio is not going to help you. I know people always ask about that with Venusaur. Like, how do you beat Oricorio? You can't lose to Oricorio, so it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Sometimes the games go to ties, but the poison damage and whatnot, like, you're probably just going to end up winning. And then the Bayonet, right? Because Bayonet locks supporter cards, I think. So that's gonna be a tough one. And yeah, man, great run for Venusaur. Love to see Venusaur in here. What am I doing? I don't know. I went to the wrong page. Sorry. Anyway, we have Legendary. This is gonna be the Dark Absol deck. So the Absol Darkrai deck, and this is the Sleep deck. So kind of a version of this deck that fell to the wayside a little bit. There's a lot of like intermingling between a lot of these dark Pokemon, right? Like we know Absol sees play in Hydreigon, but it also sees play with like Dark Greninja, which sees play with Darkrai and Chingling. And then we have the Darkrai Igglybuff stuff, which sees play with Altaria, but also works with Darkrai Absol. So all of those archetypes are kind of all mashed together in some ways. I think a lot of people do prefer to play the Sleep Scam stuff with Altaria, but this deck list is really strong. For the same reasons that Dark Greninja is strong with Rocky Helmet and Darkrai, you can kind of just deal with your opponent's Sleep decks pretty easily, and this is a deck that does play starting planes because all of our Pokemon are basics, but that gives our Igglybuff 50 HP, which is a big deal, especially like in the head-to-head matchups against other Sleep decks. I really like this deck. The issue with it is that none of our Pokemon, none of our strategy here is relying on dealing like a ton of damage. We did lose to Hydreigon, we lost to Venusaur, and we lost to a Manectric, a Turbo Manectric deck, but beat up a variety of other decks this weekend. Legendary did. But that's like the core thing here, is that we just can't deal a ton of damage, and that's why things like Venusaur are probably pretty tough. And maybe some of those steel matchups too. I would imagine like the steel, like anything with big damage reduction is probably going to be pretty tough. You're definitely reliant a little bit on the coin flips, but I really like this deck. I think it's a pure control dark type deck, and I think that's really, really cool that we have stuff in the game. And to me, it does feel like Bad Dreams and Nightmare Aura Darkrai like are kind of meant to go together, because it's like an extra, so with Igglybuff, it does 10. If you have triple Darkrai's on your bench with Igglybuff, theoretically speaking, you can deal like 70 damage, I think it is, in one turn and put your opponent to sleep for that. And that's crazy. Like that is strong. So I like this deck a lot. Double Leaf in here, just because we don't want to lead with anything other than Igglybuff. And that inherently, I guess, is the issue with this deck from a consistency standpoint, is that the only Pokemon you really ever want in the active is Igglybuff. And, we have 4 other cards in our deck. So you kind of have to play double Leaf. And that's, that's how it is. If we had one of those Pokemon that gave like all dark Pokemon free retreat, it would be really nice in a deck like this. And I know you could play Shaman. So Shaman might be a pretty decent card in a deck like this, but we're limited for bench space because we want to bench all of these Pokemon. So, there's just some inherent issues, but yeah, I like the deck. Great run, by the way. Just a great, it's really cool to see. Legendary, 4th place. Okay, free tendies here. Manectric and Zeraora, 5th place. Yeah, one of the more successful decks this season. I think it won our first Pocket Mats tournament of the season, or Manectric did, but that was a different version. But this is the version that everybody plays now. We have double helmet and a Poncho in here. No elemental switch, but we do have E-Generator, Training Arena, Cyrus, Sabrina, a PCL for the sleep decks. You know, everything about Manectric is very much all about fast-paced and consistency. It's a very kind of like plain deck. There's nothing like super insane here. We're not dealing a ton of damage. We don't have a ton of HP. It's just a very consistent, fast-paced deck. And this deck is not even playing Oricorio. So it's like, you know, you really are all about just like kind of dealing a bit of damage early in the game and hoping that can kind of carry you through. I like it. I like it when I like playing Elemental Switch in this deck. Like that's what I always say about these lightning type decks. I know people aren't really super high on it, but I'm a big Elemental Switch fan. Protected Poncho, probably a pretty good card in this deck. Probably still going to do really good into Suicune, you know, and that's one of the big upsides here with Manectric. Without Oricorio, I don't know how much our Altaria matchup is influenced by that. But yeah, you know, a very simple deck, very straightforward. And that's certainly not a bad thing. What about Jolteon here? Let's take a look at this Jolteon deck. Yeah, so I mean, it's Jolteon, double E-Generator in this deck. So again, definitely a fast-paced list, but you know, Jolteon's going to be really good into certain things. I think this could maybe improve our Hydreigon matchup a little bit. Jolteon typically always does well into Hydreigon. Not going to be that useful into like Igglybuff, the electromagnetic wall. But, you know, again, I think that if you can play just, you know, any sort of fast-paced, aggressive lightning type deck, you're probably going to be at a pretty big advantage. But Jolteon typically, you know, good into Suicune and it's good into Hydreigon. So, you know, kind of throwing Manectric into that seems like it makes some sense to me. I love Beginning Bolt Jolteon as well. One of my favorite decks in the entire game. Also nice here because they're both stage 1 Pokemon, so Training Arena does both buff both of them. And I think that's pretty cool. Let's go down here to IB Fasting's deck, and this is going to be Dark Greninja playing Chingling. So this is the highest placing Chingling of the tournament. I think Chingling definitely rose in popularity a little bit after Hydreigon won last weekend, but you know, this performance here is not like the most inspiring thing for people that were thinking of playing Chingling, but I would still recommend it if you can, you know, kind of like, I just think Chingling's a good card in the metagame. So I'm always going to encourage a lot of people to play it, whether they think it's that good or not. But you'll see like the Chingling, Rocky Helmet, Darkrai stuff. So if you go first, you can KO an Igglybuff, which is always pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I like the deck. And then as you'll see here, the Hiking Trail, just like in the Hydreigon deck, it's a rare candy stage 2 combo deck. So for the same reasons, double Copycat and Hiking Trail just makes sense in a deck like this. A nice, fun deck, a control deck. You know, if Chingling's going to be good, this deck's going to be good. Like, that's kind of how the matchups go. As we know, you know, Absol. It's so funny. Like, Absol to me is, like, definitely, like, a solid core Pokemon in Pokemon Pocket ever since it's been released. But I always find that hilarious because it's really not that good of a card. Like, it really is just sort of like, hey, is it more worth it for me to just play one Absol in my deck than not? And most of the time it is. So people play one Absol, but that's because it fits into so many different archetypes. So many decks can play Dark Energy without necessarily, like, you know, like, it's just easy to do it, you know what I mean? But anyway, Dark Greninja, you know, it's going to be around hopefully forever. Owlia's deck, this is Chandelure. I'm curious about Chandelure here. Playing a Peculiar Plaza, playing a Silver in his deck. Okay, so this is a lot of one-ofs. One Meowth, one Meloetta, those are the lead-offs here, and then just Chandelure, just past friends Chandelure. And Chandelure does more damage for each supporter in your discard pile, so I suppose, you know, you want to have a lot of supporters so that you can always play them. Meowth draws cards, Meloetta here draws Pokemon, so both are going to be useful lead-offs here, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know what to think about this. Not something I would have expected to place high in the tournament. I personally never really gave Chandelure a lot of thought. I never really considered it too much, but you know, clearly not a weak Pokemon by any stretch. It will get one hit KO'd by Hydreigon, so that's probably what the Giant Cape's for. Protected Poncho, obviously really good for this deck because the whole concept of Chandelure is that it's supposed to sweep through your opponent, right? Like, it's not something you really want early in the game. You want to kind of stall the game out with Meowth and Meloetta, and you want to protect it on the bench with Poncho, and then when it comes in, hopefully you have a bunch of supporters in your discard pile, and you're basically just able to deal a bunch of damage, you know what I mean? Chandelure really kind of fell off, I think, when Houndstone got popular, but, you know, clearly not a bad Pokemon, right? Clearly not, so You know, there you go. Shout out to Alia. You know, top, what is this? Top 16 with Chandelure 10th place out of 500. Phantom Knight, Naganadel, and Guzzlord. And this is, you know, aggro dark. This is Dark Ultra Beast at its finest. This deck is straight out of Extra Dimensional Crisis. We are playing, of course, Copycats and, you know, a Poncho and Hiking Trail, which sure are all good cards. The Beastite here is throwing me for a loop, but Beastite's honestly kind of an underrated card. If you never knew what this card did, and the reason why I don't think it ever saw that much play is because it increases the damage you deal, but based around how many points that you've taken. So not your opponent. So it's not a comeback mechanic. It's more of like a, hey, like I got some early KOs, so now I'm dealing even more damage. Like it's an interesting card, but Naganadel is really, really strong. Like Naganadel Nihilego has always been one of the more aggressive, impressive, fast-paced combos in the game. 1 energy, 40, and poison, 100 HP on this thing. And it is a dark type, but it poisons, right? So if you can get double Nihilego, Naganadel turn 2, like you're cooking. You're dealing a ton of damage. It's like 80 damage or something, which is crazy. Is it 90? It might be 90 actually. And then if you don't get the attack off, but you can attach Poison Barb or have double Naganadel or double Nihilego and Guzzlord. So, I mean, all of our Pokemon here are Ultra Beast, so Celesteela gives everything free retreat. Lusamine kind of set up the Guzzlord in the late game. It's not a bad deck. Like, this is such an old strategy, but as we see, like, this is a deck that's going to be able to win. Honestly, a very interesting deck considering that this metagame now has some fast-paced strategies, but not like a ton, you know? And anything that can play Poison Barb Nihilego is probably going to be pretty good against these sleep decks. So, yeah, man, shout out to Naganadel. You know, shout out. If you go first, like, you can KO that Dino as well. I really like it. I think Naganadel is super slept on. Hopefully that sees more play. And then Wawin's deck here, 12th place. This is Altaria. Is this Toolbox? It is. Okay. So Altaria Toolbox here. Lots of one-ofs, but we got one Chingling, one Furfrou, one Jirachi, one Klefki, one Tapu Lele. And this is the type of stuff that I always liked about Altaria, was the customization of it. I know in Pokemon Pocket, decks always become standardized to a pretty heavy degree, which is always fine, but like Altaria is so cool because it's so flexible. There's so many good cards that you can play with it. Lots of bench damage here. Klefki to remove trainer cards, or tool cards rather. Chingling item lock, Furfrou to kind of KO like your opposing baby Pokemon, which is always really good. It's going to be really nice to counter sleep. And then, you know, Lycia, Sabrina, Cyrus, Copycat, Mars. One-ofs of a bunch of good stuff here. One Pokeball, one Lycia, which is a big benefit of this deck. And yeah, man, I really like it. I keep moving this around. I apologize, but I really like it. I wish that this version of Altaria saw more play. Definitely a fun deck to play. When you play against it, I think it's just like you have to really be on your toes. So I like it, man. I like the deck a lot. Shout out to Wawin. Great pick. And then Fury here is playing Guzzlord and Indeedee, which is the deck that we kind of all know about. This was a deck that was kind of competing with Steelix and Snorlax with Indeedee. Like they're all kind of effectively the same strategy. The thing about Steelix was that it could beat Oricorio, which is why most people kind of played Steelix. But you know, as we see here, it's clearly a strong deck. You know, Heavy Helmet, Guzzlord, Starting Plains, Lucky Ice Pops, Indeedees, you know, PCLs. Like, this is a deck that's just going to beat things. It's just going to win. 190 HP with Heavy Helmet. Like, it's such an annoying deck. You know, it really is. A fun deck to play unless you hit Oricorio, but you know, are that many people playing Oricorio? There's definitely not a lot of Magnezone Oricorio because like all of the Lightning decks are Manectric decks. And as we've seen before, some of those are not playing Oricorio. So maybe not a bad call out here. And two sides of the same coin. These are two Guzzlord decks, but they couldn't be more far apart. These are the exact opposite ways of which you could play Guzzlord. And I think that's awesome. Like, that's what's so cool about it. Completely opposite decks from the Naganadel version and the Indeedee version. Let's take a look at, this is Lindo G, the highest placing Suicune deck. And it's exactly what we thought it was. So the main difference with Suicune this season has been the inclusion of the PCL in swap for Irida, just because it can get rid of status conditions, but everything else about this deck is very standard. I don't know if we're missing one thing. Like, I think X-Speed, have people always played the X-Speed? I can't remember. I think most people were playing the inflatable boat instead of X-Speed. And I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? I don't, you know, they're effectively the same card. Boat can get removed later in the game, but X-Speed's only a one-time use. I just don't know why X-Speed would ever be better than Boat. Maybe they don't have inflatable Boat, you know, who knows? But yeah, it's Suicune, Chien-Pao. I'm surprised we didn't see more of them high in the standings, but I guess maybe the Manectric decks kind of thinned those out a little bit. or Venusaur, I guess, because like the lucky poke in the Manectric decks might have kind of cleared out these Venusaur or these Suicune decks. But let's take a look at Danny Maton's deck. The last deck we'll take a look at in top 16 in 16th place, and this is going to be Decidueye Greninja. I got this wrong on Friday when I talked about it. It's not a deck that plays grass energies. I don't know why I thought it would. Sorry, I hit my mic. Because Pierce the Pain is a colorless attack, so you definitely play water energies in this deck. In fact, the one Oricorio tells me that they're probably playing dual lightning and water energies, which is actually a really fun tech. I love throwing one Oricorio into a deck like this because it just makes sense, right? Greninja has one colorless, Decidueye's double colorless, Oricorio is one colorless. So maybe you play dual energies in here. You know, we got the Poncho. I even like the Furfrou deck. Like, this is just a really creative deck. Here we're playing one Rowlet with Fury Attack instead of Skill Dive, and then we're playing. So you're not gonna be able to attack with the Rowlet. So I don't know. They probably just picked one with like more HP or something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool deck. The strategy here, of course, is that Decidueye plus Greninja is just going to be able to deal a lot of damage, and it's a lot more consistent to do these days because of Copycat and whatnot. The last time we saw this deck, it was not playing Oricorio or Furfrou, but I actually do like this. You could maybe even, instead of like the Oricorio Furfrou stuff, you could play Item Lock. You could even just play Chingling, which might be also pretty smart. So I think Greninja Decidueye is kind of slept on. I think it's certainly not a bad deck at all. And Hiking Trail, again, for the same reasons. It's in here. Basically, any like rare candy deck should play like one Hiking Trail. I think it's just kind of worthwhile with double Copycat. So yeah, really fun deck. I'm glad we had one of these in top 16. This is one of my favorite decks that I've seen all season. And it's super cool that a deck list and a strategy like this can kind of pop up and become popular so late in the season. You know, it's always really fun to see. So massive shout out to Danny Maton for representing. Lastly here, this video's gone on a little bit long, but what I'm going to do is check a look at the metagame tab here, just real quickly to wrap up this video. So I just want to check on a couple of things. So Suicune Deck Excalibur is still the #1 most played deck, 49% win rate, nothing too crazy, basically 50-50. Hydreigon close behind, so 15 and 14% meta share. So these two decks definitely seeming to be the most popular decks, as we kind of knew they would be, but the metagame definitely becoming more centralized, so everything from like 5th place and down in terms of popularity has fallen off pretty dramatically. It looks like right now, at least, you're either playing Suicune, Hydreigon, Manectric, Altaria, or I guess as it shows right here, Greninja Decidueye is actually the 5th most played deck at 6% meta share. So it did struggle though. So definitely pretty low on the win rates. Altaria Greninja really struggled actually, and Sleep Altaria struggling as well. So it's interesting to see. Manectric did incredibly well, 160 to 119. That's a 56.5% win rate. So, Manectric popped off. Hydreigon and Altaria, which had below 50% win rates, made it to grand finals. But yeah, definitely didn't perform extremely well. Honestly, the only big standouts from a win rate perspective were Dark Greninja, which is Chingling, by the way. Shout out to Chingling. And Manectric, which maybe most of the time was playing Oricorio. Let's see. Half of the decks were playing Oricorio. Maybe that's where we're at. Maybe it's just sort of like, at the end of the day, like you either play Chingling or you play Oricorio, yeah, Chingling Altaria did well, 52%, and Steelix did pretty well as well, 38-27, so Steelix had a winning matchup. And Venusaur, 17 and 13. So definitely a decent performance here. Not a lot of high win rates. What was the most successful deck? So the one Bayonet player, yeah, the Guzzlord. So all of these like one-ofs, which is incredible. So a lot of these decks that we covered there in top 16 are like one of or two of versions of these decks, which is always crazy. This is like, what are these decks here? Hold on. This is just straight Manectric. One Oricorio, one Zera. Weird. 15 and 7. Manectric's just a crazy card, dude. It's just a crazy card. But yeah, like the Guzzlord Deck, only one person played it. They went 8-3. The Chandelure player, only one person played it, went 8-1. The Guzzlord Indeedee, only one person played it, and they went 8-3. So, I think that the week 3s, like, there's a lot more potential than people might think, honestly, to just play something that's a little bit against the grain. Anything else really stand out here amongst win rates? Yeah, I guess this Manectric deck. Let me just pull up an example here. So just one Oricorio, one Zera, I guess, with Elemental Switch. Very interesting. Very strange. Maybe you don't need double Zera. Double Lucky Ice Pop. Okay. All right. I might explain it. that might explain it there. Very interesting. Is this surprising to you guys? Is this what you kind of thought? I mean, again, like the Sleep Scam, Altaria deck, like it wasn't even that popular. It's crazy that after kind of getting to grand finals twice in a row, it's sitting right now at under 5% meta share. You know, it is definitely an RNG deck. Like, I'm not saying this is the strongest thing in the world. Its win rate's never been that high, but it's made back-to-back grand finals. So, you know, it effectively is a high roll deck. Altaria Greninja, though, you know, really not doing well. Really not doing well. And that's very interesting. I think it just hard loses to Oricorio and probably most Manectric decks. Same with Decidueye Greninja. Like, Greninja's just not doing great. Other than Dark Greninja. So maybe if you're playing Greninja, you got to play Chingling. I think that's probably the... Maybe that's the key. Charizard here, 3648. We know Charizard's been struggling a little bit, especially with Suicune as the #1 most played deck. Yeah, I mean, the Steel-type decks aren't doing too bad, in fact. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Suicune Greninja, though. 10 and 7. 3 people played it. It is a big drop-off, right? Like, take a look at how many people are playing, like, the top 5-6 decks. Or, I guess, to, like, here. You know, and then like look at everything below it, like you know, down here, like it quickly just becomes like a handful of people playing all of these different decks. So the metagame is very centralized, but as we saw, 3 or 4 different people playing like one of decks in this tournament made top 8 and top 16. So you know, the metagame becomes centralized, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity to play things that are just a little bit different and to still be successful. And that to me marks a healthy metagame. This season's going to be a little bit longer. I think things were a bit delayed, maybe because of Champions release, but we have like 2 more weeks like from today for the ranked season. So again, PMPT number 28 is going to be this weekend. PMPT number 28 is this weekend, April 18th. And then on the following weekend, which will be the 25th, I believe, that is going to be the Invitational. So you're going to have to still wait another week or so until we kind of release the information about the Invitational tournament. But it should be pretty funny. I will link, or I guess, I can't talk. I will leak some information about it. We're going to do it differently than we did it last season. We're probably going to just invite like the top 256 players, and they're just going to play like a normal formatted PMPT tournament. So it's going to be very normal in terms of the structure. It's just going to be probably limited to the top 256 people in the standings. That's probably how we're going to do it. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. You're going to have to stay tuned. But that's the video. That's Meta Monday, guys. Thank you so much for watching and competing and keeping the competitive Pokemon Pocket scene alive. I know a lot of people playing Champions. I've been playing Champions. I've been covering it. Go check out the Champion Mads channel. Link down in the description below. But I'm still here, still enjoying Pokemon Pocket. And, you know, I think the community is very ingrained, which I think is really good. You know, the game has been out for like a year and a half at this point, and we're all here for it. You know, I've been here since the beginning, so I will continue to be here. Don't forget to subscribe. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers. And yeah, that's Meta Monday. That's the video. All right. Stay tuned, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah. Bye.